UPSC CSE arena is an ever-evolving space where staying up to date becomes as crucial as maintaining a thorough preparation. With strategic planning and holistic coverage for exam syllabus, Vision IS Delhi presents GS Foundation course. Avail analysis and integration of current affairs with GS syllabus. All India test series with an innovative assessment system, inculcating post-test analysis, discussion, all India ranking, and more. Explore the holistic learning modules intrinsically designed for the ideal aspirant.
Good evening, all of you. How are you all? Okay, so we have a very short span. You will be having faculties for different subjects would be interacting, and you are here to be more wise by the time you leave. We live in an era of democratization of knowledge, and there is bombardment of information. So I'm very sure that those who have gathered in the class, you already have ample of information pouring in from too many sources. So the quest over here is that you should be more wise, because when you are bombarded with information, I still remember a very wise senior faculty of ours said many years back, when internet has just started pouring in, that it is important to know what not to study rather than what to study. So most of the things that you come across from polity to any subject, there is ample of literature available on internet that can flood all the 7 oceans. Still the oceans would be, still the literature would be left. Okay, so we'll try to make it precise, because we have a very short span. We can talk about this for even 20 days, then also it is not enough continuously. Okay. To make this session more productive, being honest, I will speak from the experience, whatever God has bestowed. So over the period of time, after interacting with maybe 70,000-80,000 students, and we are also adopting ourselves to the best of our ability with the demands of UPSC, because what I was teaching in 2016, what I taught in 2019, and what is being taught in 2024, there is a monumental difference. First, the basics remains the same, but undoubtedly every year the what you call, due to the reorientation of UPSC, not every year, but at least last 2-3 years, if you see the pattern, which has a bit changed. Undoubtedly, I would say that always the competition is relative. The competition is always relative, because whenever you are competing in 1950s or 60s, you are competing with the people of the same time. Okay, so competition is relative, but there is one thing. When the syllabus changed in 2013, initially for 4-5 years, those who were the, there is always a saying that what you call first movers advantage. People with many who went through the visionized current affairs and started writing answers with little effort to chalo respectable effort, but a new trick they made into the services. But the kind of questions that UPSC is asking for past 3 years, undoubtedly they have reoriented, and you have to adopt yourself with the what you call change. Okay, so without wasting much time and without much ado, one thing which I have been focusing since years and years, and whatever most of the doubts that you have, I know, okay, because interacting with students, hardly a single question comes to me which in a what you call, in a week or so we get 1 or 2 new questions. Otherwise most of the questions have been asked from some or the other predecessor of yours. Okay, so few things which are of paramount importance. First thing is syllabus, which I don't need to say, you know that. Syllabus may in prelim stage of the examination UPSC, I always meant this first 10 minutes, I always say that in prelim stage of the examination UPSC has not been that magnanimous. The syllabus is very what you call a very indicative syllabus, like they use the term current issues of national and international importance. Okay, so current issues of national and international importance, so we try to the best of our ability, we try to carve out, because current issues of national and international importance which have an impact on India, because ultimately you will be working as a civil servant. So we try to carve out a boundary within which to the UPSC frames the question. In polity also they say Indian constitution, political system, governance, panchayati raj, rights issue, etc. etc. I always say is a very dangerous term. For example, in mains, if you see main stage of the examination, UPSC has been magnanimous and very comprehensive. They have detailed out the syllabus, and whoever frames the question paper has a copy of syllabus at his disposal, and the keywords that are mentioned in the syllabus can be found reoccurring in the paper every year. You can find that. So in the prelims, so of course you must be knowing the syllabus by heart. Current issues of national and international importance, Indian constitution, political system, rights issue, panchayati raj institutions, governance, etc. But in mains they have detailed out the syllabus. For example, in you see paper 2 comprises of polity, then you have what you call international relations, social justice, and you have what you call governance. Okay, in role of civil servants in a democracy or e-governance, citizen charter, right to information, all these things are there. So, and also remember that syllabus has been, see, I will try to be as precise I can. Honestly speaking, in 1 hour we cannot talk about a entire subject which I am teaching for 9 years. How can I will try to. So in the examination, if you see, the syllabus has been so crafted कि वो भी interrelated है. For example, as a civil servant, what will you do? As a civil, what is the principal task of the state? The principal mandate of सबसे बड़ा काम state का क्या है? सरकार का सबसे पहला का, what is the principal mandate of the state? The principal mandate of the state is to maintain the sovereignty and integrity of the country. After that comes welfareism, secularism, federalism, rule of law. Everything comes secondary. The first thing is to maintain the sovereignty and integrity of the country. So as a civil servant, you will also promote social justice. As a civil servant, you will implement the policies and you will promote social justice. So in paper 1, you have paper 2, GS paper 2, you have constitution, you have social justice. And of course, what is government? Government is the set of people who have the authority to govern, and what they do is governance. So governance is primarily a verb. The social, economic, political, cultural and other decisions taken by government is governance. So governance is a verb and government is a Government is a noun, the set of people who have the authority to govern. So you will be exercising governance. So what they have framed in paper 2, they have put Indian constitution, and as a constitution, what is the entire process of governance? So they have added governance. You will promote social justice, so they have added social justice. And last, international relations best fits well in this paper. So GS paper 2 has been scientifically crafted. You have Indian constitution, that is the political system and all those things, then you have governance, then you have social justice, and you have international relations. For example, society, caste-based discrimination, gender-based discrimination, regional inequality, historical injustice, untouchability, any such thing. Society is placed in paper 1, not in paper 2, because you are intellectually sound to understand that caste-based discrimination or gender-based injustice, all these have historical aspect. So society is not placed in paper 2, it is placed in paper 1, while social justice is placed in paper 2. So syllabus has also been so drafted that it is very, very scientifically placed. At the same time, it would be immature and naive to say that there is no interdisciplinary element. There is, of course, an interdisciplinary element. For example, budget we also teach in paper 2, and we also teach, there is also an element of budget in paper 3, that is economics. For example, in 2021 mains, they asked a question on finance commission, which we teach in polity. It is mentioned in the constitution article 280, and we also teach in what you call paper 3, that is economics. So first, you are not going to take the syllabus in a straight jacketed or a compartmentalized manner. There is an element of interdisciplinary. At the same time, main syllabus has been very beautifully and comprehensively crafted, so it is absolutely pertinent for every serious candidate to have a copy of syllabus pasted at the workstation where you study. Pasted at the workstation where you study. I am not asking you to memorize the syllabus. If I will ask you to memorize the syllabus, you know what it is. For example, if I give you a book how to play cricket, and I'll ask you to memorize playing cricket, do you think we can become a good cricketer by going through the textbook on cricket? No. You will only learn cricket by, so I'm not asking you to memorize the syllabus, but once it is pasted at the workstation where you study, you will go through that every time and again. Gradually, when you will read things in newspaper, you will be able to relate that with the syllabus, and you will relearn, rediscover yourself. I cannot transmit wisdom. Nobody can transmit wisdom in one day. Over the period of time, you will make mistake, you will rediscover yourself, you will correct yourself, and again you will come out as a different individual. So in the process, you will have an understanding of the syllabus and link the syllabus with the current affairs. But I can say one thing with uttermost humility, that whenever UPSC will frame a question, unke samne there will be a copy of the syllabus, especially in the mains examination. The key terms that are mentioned in the syllabus, it is a suicide to you to not go through the syllabus and complete every single term that is mentioned in the syllabus. So many questions I can talk about. Due to the want of time, I will not be talking about, which is directly mentioned in the syllabus. So all of you need to go through the syllabus. Even if you prelims, so I will not be emphasizing much, you know, that's a very brief one. Mains to, of course, it is a prerequisite thing. Next, you have, without much ado, National Council for Educational Research and Training, NCERT textbooks. NCERT textbooks are not, at times I am astonished, surprised when students say, sir, Lakshmikant Vision IS material or NCERT. There is no English or, there is Hindi or an English and. So whatever you do, NCERT is a prerequisite. It will hardly take 1 or 2 days. There are 2 books which we primarily recommend. One is Indian Constitution at Work, and the most favorite book of UPSC, that is class 11th NCERT, that is political theory. It is not something related to Rousseau, Locke, or John Stuart Mill, or all those things, or Karl Marx or Frederick Engels. Basic, what do you mean by secularism, what do you mean by liberty, what do you mean by equality, what do you mean by fraternity. जो basic terms हैं preamble में, those terms are mentioned. So I will very strongly emphasize you that NCERT, especially 2 NCERT textbooks. One is Indian Constitution at Work, and then you have political theory. Okay, of course you can go through 2 more NCERTs, Democratic Politics Part 1 and Part 2. Now just 1 minute. NCERT say UPSC enjoys trapping you where you are most comfortable. So NC, you know what is the what you call boring thing about NCERT? When you will read those textbooks, you will feel, kya, this I know, and you will pass them over, and UPSC will have that last smile by trapping you at a place where you are most comfortable. to treat them with uttermost religiosity and diligence, complete them comprehensively, except those unnecessary brackets that let's play game and all those things. Leaving that, what is importantly placed in NCERT, usko cover kijiye. Without a shadow of doubt, there will be 1 or 2 question in prelims, and if you are lucky, you will also find a question in mains. One question is everything for me, because only 12-13 questions. We work so hard from 7-10 in the what you call 8 a.m. in the morning. I left and we work throughout the year, and there are only 12 to 14 questions that are asked in prelims. If after so much of hard work and perspiration, if you get one question wrong, it is a big thing, because they are not asking many questions. They are only asking 10 to 12 or 14 questions. So every single question is important. One question will be there from NCERT. Cover them very, very comprehensively. The cost analysis, cost benefit analysis is very high. Cost benefit analysis is very up there. So nobody will come and say कि sir NCERT or this book. बिल्कुल भी नहीं. First you will cover your NCERT. They are prerequisites, and UPSC, I don't have time, but I'll tell you, UPSC has had the last laugh by asking you a question directly from NCERT and trapping you. Because those who have just waved over NCERT thinking that this too I have read in my school, and they trap you. They asked a basic question from NCERT, constitutional government, or basic question they ask, what do you mean by liberty, and they trap the student. So cover your NCERT syllabus. Without a shadow of doubt, newspaper has become of paramount importance. Reason clear hai. Everything has a reason. Always remember that they will frame a question that is directly related to your work. वो वही क्वेश्चन पूछेंगे जो आपके जिस चीज के लिए आपको रिक्रूट कर रहे हैं उससे रिलेटेड है. They will only be asking a question for the things that are related to your recruitment. For example, as a civil servant, you are not required to remember too many facts. You will be taking decisions, and you need to have intellectual maturity. They are, for example, I'll give you a reason. They are not very much interested in asking Gandhiji as a role of Gandhiji in modern freedom national struggle, that Gandhiji came to India 9th January 1915, and non-cooperation movement, and February 1922 Chauri Chaura, or 6th April 1930 civil disobedience, or 8th August 1942 Gwalior attack, do or die. They are more interested in these days, whether you know about Gandhian philosophy and a way of life. They asked the question 2 years back, what is common between Gandhiji and Marx? Then they asked the question, what are the views of Rabindranath Tagore ji and Gandhiji on nationalism? So as a scholar, as a civil servant, there is a difference. But see, every exam is respectable, but as the requirement for lower divisional clerk, the requirement for state PSC and requirement for UPSC is different, because you will be heading an office, and there requires an intellectual maturity and understanding of the society. So they are not very interested in you knowing the facts, but you should have an understanding of the society. What newspaper does? One, it gives you a very continuous understanding of the society. I'll tell you a secret. If you will read newspaper for 1 year, you will not even know that you have changed, because newspaper doesn't change you in a single day. If you will continuously reading newspaper, you will not even know, and your intellectual maturity will reach wider horizon. Okay, pehla, you will become intellectually more mature. Second important thing, your vocabulary will, that is the least thing, that your vocabulary will also increase. Third, it is extremely important to have an understanding of the society. Fourth important thing, they don't want those students who are preparing from Indus Valley civilization. They want those students who are young and dynamic, so that they give more years to service, and the average age of IAS, which hovers around 27, is reduced. So over the years, they are asking more questions from current affairs. Without a shadow of doubt, somebody who is preparing for ages, he will have brutal advantage over those who are preparing young when it comes to absolute facts, because he is repeating the same facts again and again. So UPSC wants young students to be taken, and UPSC wants the exam to be more democratized. So nowadays they are asking a lot of questions from current affairs, and they make it happen that those questions which are asked from current affairs are asked from newspaper. Undoubtedly, Vision IAS current affairs material is of exemplary importance. Even if I don't say it is the benchmark for industry, at the same time, current affairs monthly compilation cannot replace the newspaper. I cannot replace the dry fruits with the main course menu. So newspaper will intellectually, and it will also give you an understanding how to write a very good answer. Newspapers are not replaceable at all. They are irreplaceable, and so many questions they have asked directly from the newspaper. Sometimes in mains they asked questions which were lifted from some articles which appeared in newspaper. And I will not go into the debate that whether Rasgulla belonged to Odisha or West Bengal, GI tag. or what you call Falkland Island between Argentina and UK, or the Hindu versus Indian Express. I always say, and both the newspapers are good. Hindu is more of an academic newspaper, no nonsensical newspaper. They keep it very precise. So newspaper reading, NCERT. Then one thing which is very, very important, that is previous year's question paper. Previous year's question paper, because we get an insight into the minds of UPSC. But there is a caveat. The kind of questions that UPSC used to ask 6 years back, I don't take them, honestly speaking, I don't take them as a benchmark. What we start teaching from the onset as a basic thing, जो हम पहले पढ़ाते थे, which we used to teach as a comprehensive thing, now we start from that. Who takes a decision under the 10th schedule, or how many spokes are there in Indian flag? This was asked in 2010. Or what is the full form of Niti Aayog? This was asked 9 years back. Don't expect UPSC to ask this question. Liberty of thought expression, belief, faith, worship, or right to duty to pay tax is a fundamental duty or not, or duty to vote is a fundamental duty or not, or match the following. I can write now those questions UPSC is not asking. Gone are the days. Now UPSC is asking more those questions which have an understanding, which are based on the fact. So static as well as dynamic has to be. I can give you zillions of example. Let's take 4 or 5 example. First, for example, UPSC, there is Article 18, which talks about titles. Article 18, Clause 1, Indian state will not award any title. You will learn these things. No titles. 18, Clause 2, Indian citizen will not accept a title from a foreign state. Clause 3 and Clause 4 is there. They did not ask from Article 18, 1, 2, 3, 4. They took out a page from government, padmaawards.gov.in, and usse question banaya. Listen to me very carefully. Now, if in all the classrooms of the country, Article 18 was taught from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Ladakh to Rameshwaram, all the Article 18, Clause 1, Clause 2, Clause 3, Clause 4 padhaya gaya. But they asked the question from padmaawards.gov.in. They asked a dynamic question which was linked to 18 but not 18. So what is the point of teaching 18 if you were not able to solve the question? So now they are static is there, but what is the fact related to that you have to do? I'll give you many more examples. For example, first fundamental duty to respect the ideals of the constitution, respect the national flag and national anthem. They ask the length and breadth of national flag mentioned in Flag Code of India. So if they are asking about if there is an issue related to governor, they will ask a dynamic question. So UPSC is not asking a direct question directly from the textbook or the fact. They are asking questions which are more dynamic in nature, and those who are reading newspaper, they will have an advantage over those who are not reading newspaper. So see, they don't want those who are Maggie, who have prepared for 3 months, 3-4 months, but though have been consistently reading for the entire year, they will have an advantage. Believe me, it is not tough. It is not tough, but there are 2 major challenges at your disposal. Pehla major challenge hai ki the syllabus is relatively wide, so you need to give ample of time. Since you will start a bit late, so you will be competing with time. I see students at Old Rajendra Nagar or here who start from January. So if you will start a bit late, then you are racing against time, which is not possible. First important. Second and most important thing, you see 1/3 of the list is being repeated every year. Last year, those got into revenue service will get police service. Those who got police service will get administrative service. Those who got corporate law service will get railway management service. And those who got railway management service will get IT. Why the list is being repeated? Not because there are less intellectuals, because once you decipher the exam, that is the most. You see, one person in the family cracks the exam and 5 siblings in follow crack the exam. It's not that family is average more intellectual than others, because one person has decoded the scheme of examination and conveyed the same to other, and all of them work together in harmony and they qualify. So one thing which I always maintain, that you must understand the psyche and the demand of the examination, keeping everything aside. First, you should go through the previous year's question paper. First, you should go through the answer scripts of those who have qualified successful, uploaded on the Vision IS website, and try to understand the psyche and demand of examination. That is something which is very, because the moment you make a step out of, you will be bombarded with information. Everybody will suggest you that for economics, this is something which is good, and the day you start reading, something new will come. It is more important to keep everything aside, be be peace with yourself and just think for a week, decide that what is the actual strategy. Once you start understanding the demand of examination, definitely then things would become very easy for you, because you know there are people who are working hard. Sometimes today only, for example, sometimes I see a person who graduated from one of the private engineering college. I'm not what you call, of course I am not demeaning anyone, but let me tell you, a person who graduated from one of the engineering colleges, where private engineering college, but still securing a very good rank. So it is not about that whether the person got very good rank in IITG or not. Here the person was successful in decoding the scheme of the examination and gets under 30, under 20, under 10 rank. So what is more important is sit down, understand the syllabus, go through the previous year's question paper, try to understand the psyche of UPSC, give a lot of time. For me, if I'm going on war, for 1 week I'll prepare for the war. That rather, most of them are buying books and started studying from the first day. For 1 week you must go through the scheme of examination, what is the demand of examination. You have ample of literature available, quality literature. If you are in the classroom program, you will be guided by the respective faculties, so previous year's question paper would be of handy. Some other sources which we refer in the class, usually we dissuade from referring any private sites, but there are some which are actually doing really good. For example, PRS Legislative, you know about that. That is something which is doing relatively better, academically rich content. So that is something which is there. So I would be emphasizing on these things, where we have what you call the syllabus, NCERT, Indian Constitution at work, and then you have political theory, PT, and then you have newspaper and previous year's question paper. Now let's go to two staged. You know the scheme of examination is divided into 3 stages. You have preliminary, then you have mains, and then you have personality test. So personality test, of course, it is not about information but more about your personality, because if you have reached that stage, without a shadow of doubt you carry certain level of academic excellence. That is why you have reached. Now in mains, in prelims, they are no more bothering that with they asked a question from Representation of People Act, which is directly mentioned in the main syllabus. They asked a question in prelims about Representation of People Act, which is explicitly mentioned in the main syllabus. So you cannot dissect the syllabus in prelims and mains. Anything that has been carved down in mains can also be asked in the prelim stage of the examination. Now what is the new trend which UPSC is doing in last 3-4 years? Being honest, 2024 prelims question paper, I will not take this as a benchmark, because this question paper was relatively very easy compared to what question were asked in 21, 22 and 23. That is why the cutoff, expected cutoff, is going to increase by 20, 21 marks. Last year it was declared by UPSC hovering around 76. This year, as we don't have the cutoff, but the speculation that we have is something around 95, 96, 97, whatever. So because there are question paper was relatively easy. So next year again UPSC can play that unpredictable game and stump you inside the examination hall. So it is better to be vigilant and take that paper as benchmark, which was relatively tougher than the paper that is asked this year. Okay, so what are the major changes that I can see UPSC is witnessing? First major change, in the prelims and main stage of the examination, UPSC is more asking more applied questions. Okay, for example, they asked a question, if you see last 2-3, those questions which you will not find in static literature. Throughout the year there was a discussion about, I said today morning also I was saying this, that throughout the year there was discussion about what you call judicial custody and police custody in Sushant Singh Rajput ji's case happened. So they asked the question, what is the difference between judicial custody and police custody? Prisons was always in news, so they are asking those questions which are more applied. Jaise 10 years back they would have, or 5-7 years back they would have asked that mundane, cliche, normative, conventional, common, regular question, what is the role of governor in president rule? These questions they used to ask. Ab kya puchenge? For example, all of you, I assume that some of you are already preparing for the examination and some of you don't know anything. Even if you don't know anything, but I'm sure you must have heard about the issue of governor with respect to center and state. Everybody in this class is that aware, that must have heard that there is something going on between center and state, and governor is at the center of that issue. You must have heard. अब इसमें क्या क्या issue है भाई? First issue you must have heard कि governor is not approving the bills passed by the state legislature. Second, you have heard governor is not appointing the vice chancellor recommended by the state government. Third, you may have heard in general the governors, especially in those states which are not ruled by the ruling party at the center, there is some issue or friction, calling of an assembly session, some ministers, without going personal, we have nothing to do with politics, and please all of you have nothing to do with activism. Because one senior of ours rightly said, which I always say in the class, the Constitution of India allows you to be an activist. The Constitution of India allows you to be a great activist, but you cannot be an activist and civil servant at the same time. The Constitution of India allows you to be an activist, but you cannot be an activist and civil servant at the same time. So you have to choose one. Some students come to me and they have so much of anger and what you call within them, and they exhibit that in paper. Bhaiya, you will be a civil servant. You will be paid by the government of India, and you will be at times working for the state and all India services. Then the point is, then you must toe the line of the government. There is no scope for much what you call activism. Okay, so answers must be very balanced. Okay, your views, if you're talking about sedition, you're talking about unlawful activities prevention Act, you're talking about the what you call the role of state in curbing the freedom of speech and expression, you're talking about consensual marriage between people belonging to the same gender, you're talking about anything, your answer must be a very balanced answer. On the one hand, you will uphold the principles of rule of law and democracy and liberal democratic character of Indian state. On the other hand, you will also talk about the governmental challenges to maintain the unity and integrity of the country. Now coming back to this, now they are not interested in the role of governor. They will ask those issues that are arising out of governor, jaise the calling of an assembly session. So issues have become more important, and like you have a pizza and you have a base of the pizza remains the same, but the toppings make the entire difference. So they will, even if in prelims what they are doing, if they will take two statements, first statement they will give a static which is directly from the constitution, second they will give current. Most likely due to your access to the conventional literature, you will know one of the statement, but the second statement you don't know, you will not be able to arrive at the. So reading newspaper is something which has become of uttermost importance. Precisely, I will also be talking about governance over here. Okay, one thing, because UPSC has already exhausted the questions in the static part of the constitution, ek to applied mein, which will play the most important role. In applied, the most important role will be played by newspaper and Vision IS monthly compilation that is there. These and some notes you can also prepare on your own. Second important thing, UPSC has shifted the gear from asking static question to governance. Few years back, they used to ask a lot of questions directly from the constitution, that what are the fundamental rights to equality, what is the principle of secularism. Now they are asking more questions from governance. Jaise मान लिया पंचायती राज, all of us know that there is a panchayati raj, and those who don't know, let me tell you, there is a provision in the constitution, article 243 से 243 O for orange, there is provision in the constitution. Now what are article 243, what is a gram sabha? The UPSC is least interested. Now they are asking what are the challenges faced by the Panchayati Raj institutions. Now they are asking that just the establishment of Panchayati Raj, for example, if you appoint a guard who sleeps all the time, so for namesake you have appointed a guard who is there standing or sitting like a statue, but he is not able to secure the sanctity of the building because he is sleeping all the time. So mere establishment of Panchayati Raj will not do anything. Article 40 of the constitution says that the state shall take steps to organize village panchayat and endow them with such powers so as to enable them to function as units of self-government. Now UPSC is only interested in you knowing what are the challenges associated with Panchayati Raj institutions. Ab wo daur gaya, they will never ask what is Article 21A. Even a person selling pan knows that Article 21A is right to free and compulsory education to the children in the age group 6 to 14 years. Now UPSC asked the question, do you think right to free and compulsory education act is able to incentivize school education in India? Do you think the law is enough to bring more children to school? So they are more interested in analyzing the the implementation of the law, and whether the real this thing you will not find in a static literature. This you will be able to do. One, of course, in the classroom program it will be advocated. At the same time, newspaper and other things that has to be followed. For example, today morning a girl came, she was asking about what you call the this thing about the Maternity Benefit Act and Factories Act, about that in the new Maternity Benefit Act there is a provision for what you call this thing, for that those employers who have certain number of employees must have a creche, so that a woman who works must be able to take care of his or her child. Okay, so those things, those are important things which have an impact on the society. Jaise question, what all questions they have asked. They have not asked discuss the major provisions of Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act. They asked, do you think the act has been able to incentivize school education in India? They asked, critically analyze performance of Gati Shakti Yojana. Do you think Right to Persons with Disabilities Act has been able to democratize the public space for persons with disabilities? Do you think that the federalism, do you think the agencies like Central Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement Directorate are diluting federalism in India? Or they're asking questions which are more applied, and their shift is more towards governance. Their shift is more towards governance because they know very well that if they will be asking direct plain questions, factual question, then most of the students will answer. So if I talk about Lakshmikant as a textbook, because all of you almost must have heard about the textbook. So Lakshmikant is a wonderful textbook, but of course it is not a book. Basically it's the best notes. Okay, it is the best notes. It will give you access to a basic understanding of the constitution, but it will not be able, it is a wonderful textbook. As a notes, it is giving you a factually very correct information, a very good understanding of the constitution. But when it comes to solving questions like implementation of PRIs, when it comes to solving questions like challenges arising out of Representation of People Act, when it comes to solving questions like that what France can learn from Indian secularism, when it comes to taxing questions like do you think the term personal, the community resources in Article 39B, personal property can also be included in the term community resources. So Lakshmikant will give you an understanding of the constitution, some cases which have been delivered by the Supreme Court, but how it is to be applied in contemporary milieu, there you will falter, and UPSC will be able to successfully trap the student. So it is a wonderful book, but it is not suffice. It is not suffice, and reason being simple. Do you think in 21st century UPSC will make somebody a civil servant who has just memorized a book? Then what will be the level of competition? The level of competition will be Chintu level of competition. You're getting my point? So UPSC, do you think कि अब आज के दौर में एक वो व्यक्ति सिविल सर्वेंट बनेगा जिसने एक किताब पढ़ ली है? Do you think that the kind, previously somebody who was a graduate, he was celebrated in the society. He's a graduate, and we had seats in what you call state legislative council for those who are graduates with 3-year standing. You have 1/12 of the seats in state legislative council are reserved for this under Article 169 of the Constitution. But do you think those questions are to be asked now? So Lakshmikant and all those things, UPSC has moved beyond. Those who are intellectually more rich, and most importantly, they don't allow you to express yourself freely, in the sense they used to give you a unlimited number of sheets 7-8 years back, but they brought a major reforms. Now they, in GS, they give you a stipulated answer sheet. In that you have to write an answer within the designated space. So first you need to be absolutely precise, because as a civil servant nobody is having time to listen to you for 5 hours. You have to express yourself in a very short time. So that is the requirement. Whenever you will be communicating with the higher authority, you will not write 200 pages letter, and nobody has a time to listen to or read those letters. So you have to be very precise. One. Second important thing, you have to be contemporary relevant. You have to be contemporary relevant. For example, the minority character of Aligarh Muslim University, or issues arising of secularism, or due to the advent of social media and democratization of knowledge, the transmission of information from one country to other, public opinions are very easily molded. What happens in India has a direct impact on Bangladesh. What happens in United States has a direct impact on India, because of the advent of social media, which was not possible because many years. So UPSC is also asking question where internet is a double-edged sword. Internet is one of the most, what you call, this is one such weapon which can either make you or break you into pieces. On the one, this I remember at least 14-15 years back, there was a person securing single digit rank. He once said that I diligently use internet. This is more than 14 years back. So internet is one such thing. It can make you, because democratization of knowledge, I feel personally that how helpful internet is. It is wonderful because you are open vistas of education. The entire world is at your palm with the access of internet. At the same time, it is more important that it will switch you to social media, and you will not even know how 4 hours are wasted. So please understand, use internet very, very diligently. It is a prerequisite. Undoubtedly, you cannot qualify single-handedly only with the resources that are static in nature. Internet has to be extensively employed. At the same time, it must not waste your time. You're getting my point now? So internet has to be very diligently used. So applied questions in this particular thing, especially I will say current affairs, you will see the newspapers, okay, newspapers, all such things are there. In that you will do some conventional sources that you can go through is, one more question. UPSC usually these days I am more often getting this question कि sir higher books पढ़े कि नहीं पढ़े. जैसे basically you'll visualize printed material, you'll go through, and you'll go through some of you will go through Lakshmi Khan and newspaper. Now some people come to me, sir, MP Jan, or for that matter DD Basu, or for that matter Subhash Kashyap, whether you have to read these books. Listen, there is no black and white answer. कभी यूपीएससी में I cannot say don't prepare notes, I cannot say prepare notes. I will say don't prepare notes of most of the things which you will find in Vision IS material, but definitely prepare notes for an article which you are not going to access again. So I will not say prepare notes every day, but I'll say prepare notes when you feel something is very important and you are not going to gain access to that. So black and white answer we cannot give a black and white answer. So in that particular sense, if you talk about, when we see the you prepare notes, but those things which are of uttermost important. Now if you see the conceptual questions, कुछ key areas हैं, वही key areas से UPSC is asking, what, for example, what is the qualification to become president of India? UPSC cannot frame a conceptual question from this. Okay, they can do anything. I'm saying conventionally, normally, why everyone knows must be a citizen of India, should be qualified to be a member of Lok Sabha, should be of 35 years of age, should not hold an office of profit except the office of president, vice president, governor, minister at the state or at the union. Now this is a factual question. यहाँ से वो conceptual question derive नहीं कर सकते. What is the definition of state in Article 12? There are certain normative boundaries and some judgments of Supreme Court. Usually, when you talk about higher books like MP Jan or DD Basu, what at best you can do? Article 14, Article 21, Article 25, separation of powers, judicial review. These are the, and preamble. These are the key areas from which UPSC is consistently asking conceptual questions. So ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. Few topics we will read from the standard textbook. You will have a very good understanding of preamble, Article 14, principle of equality. 21, last year they asked due process of law and procedure established by law, principle of natural justice, and then you have the expanded ambit of Article 21. 25, secularism, they keep asking. Then you have what you call judicial review, separation of powers. 2, 4, 5 topic you can do from a higher book. That will give you a very good understanding of those topics which are reoccurring time and again. Okay, although that will be, I don't even need to say if you are attending the class, some of you I can see also. So you know that those topics we are already covering in a very comprehensive fashion. So you don't even need. For those open sessions, since I have been designated to speak on that, so you can go through those textbooks, not completely, but only those topics which are reoccurring. Otherwise, there is no need to become a scholar, because UPSC knows very well that students from diverse academic background are preparing for civil service. There is a metallurgy graduate, there is a bioscience graduate, there is a fisheries graduate, there is a history graduate, there is an engineer, as well as there is a person with sociology as a graduated subject. So they cannot expect you to be a scholar. Okay, one more question which I prominently get, one is very what you call regularly, that is, what is the use of constitution? So let me tell you, 3 years back, UPSC never had this habit of asking articles. UPSC never had this habit of asking articles, but state PSC exams, Bihar PSC asked 5 years, 6 years back that what is Article 331 of the Constitution. UPSC never, but of late UPSC, last year they asked Article 16 clause 4 and Article 335. This year they asked Article 109 of the Constitution. One of the major confusions which I get among the students is, sir, do we need to go through the Constitution or not? Let me make this very clear to the best of my ability. You have to download an app of the Constitution, one. Second, it is impossible to remember all the articles of the Constitution for a student, and if you are doing that, then you are doing an injustice to yourself. I am teaching for 8 years, this is my 9th year. After teaching 80,000 students, now I remember most of the articles. Do you think that an senior advocate of Supreme Court or a constitutional scholar will remember all the articles? It is not possible. Without a shadow of doubt, UPSC these days is asking questions from article. But to the best of our ability, we can conveniently say, rest it depends upon UPSC, most likely, they will not ask a random article. They will only ask an article which has been discussed in the class, which has been in news, because you see things, you think they have asked article. I see things from article 1 to 395. I see from that perspective, and I know that if they're asking article 16 clause 4 and 335, every average student of UPSC must have an idea of 16 clause 4 and 335. If they're asking money bill 110 and 109, in all the batches last year I said money bill is not only 110, it is also 109. So those articles they are asking which have been conventionally taught in the class. So there is nothing to worry about the constitutional articles. Those articles, those articles which they're asking, if you don't know, definitely there is a lack in preparation. You are lacking on some count. So don't get afraid. You are not going to write the articles in the way they have been written in the Constitution. You can paraphrase them. Some articles from 12 to 51, like 12 to 35, you have fundamental rights. 36 to 51, you have directive principles. 51A, you have fundamental duties. That gradually, with the when the class will move, you will be able to remember them. But yeah, you need to have a what you call app of the Constitution. Now I'll share why this UPSC is saying. Last year they asked the question that they asked the question according last 3-5 years. I am saying they're asking question according to the Constitution of India, the Attorney General resigns when the government changes. Now Attorney General is given in Lakshmikant and all the textbooks, but they are asking according to the Constitution of India. So Article 76 read with Article 87 of the 88 of the Constitution. So usse pehle they ask the question, for example, veto. Even if you have a brief idea, you know that there is a veto power available with the president, but the term veto is not mentioned in the Constitution. In Article 111, there is a mention of the veto powers of the president without mentioning the term veto. So tomorrow they will ask a question, the term veto is present in which article, just to trap you. The veto powers are provided in the Constitution, but term veto is not provided in the Constitution. Why they are consistently asking these questions? To check whether the student has done from the secondary source or the students are directly done from the Constitution. They asked the question, the Constitution of India provides for judicial review. The Constitution of India, there is no mention of judicial review in Indian Constitution or from where it has come, that is American Constitution. Unke Constitution में भी term judicial review mention नहीं है. But we teach judicial review, although the term is not mentioned, but the concept and idea of judicial review is mentioned. Why they ask this question? So to check whether you have read from the primary source, that is the Constitution, or you have taken any other ancillary book and done the same. They asked the question, according to Constitution of India, Attorney General resigns. The Constitution of India defines basic structure, the veto powers if they ask tomorrow. So what I am trying to emphasize, ki they want a clear-cut distinction. Those students who are doing something from the primary source, or those students who are doing the secondary source, which they know very well that you are doing Lakshmikant and all other secondary sources. So Bhauwa, whatever articles we are doing, you have to do it from the primary source also. So Constitution, we will you need to have an app. If you have any question, I have 5 minutes, I'll immediately answer and then we'll wrap up the conversation because other faculties are also waiting. Please, if you have any question, please. Any of you want to ask any question? Don't hesitate, don't shy away from asking anything. Any question you want to ask? Okay, so since you are, most of you are like, so I'm just wrapping up the conversation. You follow this, understand the demand of examination, and always remember that you don't have much time. There is a race against, because the syllabus is wide enough to take ample of time, and you must understand the demand of the examination. Those sources which we have mentioned, you follow. Okay, so we will have another session by another faculty. Okay, so I'm wrapping up the conversation. This was discussion on polity and governance.